Ja, dat spijt me wel.
Hold on, I'm just about to lost it. I've lost my second page. Just a second.
Okay, sure.
Because the pages were separated, I'm just a bit confused. Do you have a complete one there?
Yeah.
I just
A
want to see
complete one?
Where's page 2 start with? Sorry, what's the beginning of page 2?
I got a complete one here.
Complete one? Okay, yeah. So this goes. That's arrangement.
No, there's no numbers on these pages.
All right, I've gone and lost the second page.
You're looking, the second page is arrangements.
Arrangements, yeah, I don't have that page. Just a minute, just a second. Okay, now I got it.
Okay?
Now I'm good, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
This is good. Okay. Wounded knee, everybody.
United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous Peoples, adopted by the General Assembly Resolution 61/295 on 13 September 2007. The General Assembly, guided by the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations and good faith in fulfillment of obligations assumed by states in accordance with the Charter, affirming that Indigenous peoples are equal to all other peoples, while recognizing the right of all peoples to be different, to consider themselves different and to be respected as such, affirming also that all peoples contribute to the diversity and richness of civilizations and cultures, which constitute the common heritage of humankind, affirming further that all doctrines, policies, and practices based on or advocating superiority of peoples or individuals on the basis of national origin or racial, religious, ethnic, or cultural differences are racist, scientifically false, legally invalid, morally condemnable, and socially unjust, reaffirming that Indigenous peoples in the exercise of their rights should be free from discrimination of any kind, concerned that Indigenous peoples have suffered from historic injustices as a result of, inter alia, their colonization and dispossession of their lands, territories, and resources, thus preventing them from exercising in particular their right to development in accordance with their needs and interests, recognizing the urgent need to respect and promote the inherent rights of Indigenous peoples which derive from their political, economic, and social structures, and from their cultural, spiritual traditions, histories, and philosophies, especially their rights to their lands, territories, and resources, recognizing also the urgent need to respect and promote the rights of Indigenous peoples affirmed in treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements with the states, welcoming the fact that Indigenous peoples are organizing themselves for political, economic, social, and cultural enhancement, and in order to bring to an end all forms of discrimination and oppression wherever they occur, convinced that control by Indigenous peoples over developments affecting them and their lands, territories, and resources will enable them to maintain and strengthen their institutions, cultures, and traditions, and to promote their development in accordance with aspirations and needs.
Recognizing that respect for Indigenous knowledge, cultures, and traditional practices contributes to sustainable and equitable development and proper management of the environment, emphasizing the contribution of the demilitarization of the lands and territories of Indigenous peoples to peace, economic and social progress and development, understanding and friendly relations among nations and peoples of the world, recognizing in particular the right of Indigenous families and communities to retain shared responsibility for the upbringing, training, education, and well-being of their children, consistent with the rights of the child. Considering that the rights affirmed in treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements between states and indigenous peoples are, in some situations, matters of international concern, interest, responsibility, and character. Considering also that treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements and the relationship they represent are the basis for a strengthened partnership between indigenous peoples and states. Acknowledging that the Charter of the United Nations, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, 2, and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, 2, as well as the Vienna Declaration and Programme of Action, 3, affirm the fundamental importance of the right to self-determination of all peoples, by virtue of which they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Bearing in mind that nothing in this declaration may be used to deny any peoples their right to self-determination, exercised in conformity with international law.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I'll go back to bearing in mind.
Okay. Okay. Just hold for a sec. There we go.
Bearing in mind that nothing in this
That's funny. You guys are funny.
Sorry, we got to turn this off.
Oh, it's so cute.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Here, let me take your phones. I'm confiscating your phones now, dudes. There you go. There you go.
Good times.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, start again.
Okay. Sorry.
Bearing in mind that nothing in this declaration may be used to deny any people their right to self-determination, exercised in conformity with international law. Convinced that the recognition of the rights of indigenous peoples in this declaration will enhance harmonious and cooperative relations between the state and indigenous peoples, based on principles of justice, democracy, respect for human rights, non-discrimination, and good faith. Encouraging states to comply with and effectively implement all their obligations as they apply to indigenous peoples under international instruments, in particular those related to human rights, in consultation and cooperation with the peoples concerned. Emphasizing that the United Nations has an important and continuing role to play in promoting and protecting the rights of indigenous peoples. Believing that this declaration is a further important step forward for the recognition, promotion, and protection of the rights and freedoms of indigenous peoples, and in the development of relevant activities of the United Nations system in this field. Recognizing and reaffirming that indigenous individuals are entitled without discrimination to all human rights recognized in international law, and that indigenous people possess collective rights which are indispensable for their existence, well-being, and integral development as peoples. Recognizing that the situation of indigenous peoples varies from region to region and from country to country, and that the significance of national and regional particularities and various historical and cultural backgrounds should be taken into consideration. Yeah. Recognizing that the situation of indigenous peoples varies from region to region and from country to country, and that the significance of national and regional particularities and various historical and cultural backgrounds should be taken into consideration. I think that's a cut while we change readers.
Pardon me?
That's a cut while we change readers.
Okay, how did you guys feel about your reading? Are you happy with it? You felt good? I did. I thought it sounded really nice. It sounded good to you too, Sarah? And everything. Yeah. Yeah, it sounded really beautiful. I really liked it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, so you just want me to come in after again?
No, we'll get you
Okay.
to read that last page.
Oh, okay.
We'll be
I'll
opening
step
and
out now,
closing.
is that all right?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you so
Thanks
much.
for that.
Take care. Oh, could you
Sign the paper?
get a piece of paper and write your name,
Yeah.
the station you're with,
Yeah.
and everything, so we can give you credit and
Okay.
send you copies?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, and your email address.
Yeah.
Thank you. Emmett,
No.
where are you going?
Oh, I thought I was...
You're going to read the last page
Oh.
now.
Oh, I'm going to read the last page now.
Yeah, we're just going to get Emmett to read the last page, and we'll be right with the next one. And when you read, just stay on the mic too. Yeah. And so fast.
So what, just this here?
Oh yeah, read that last page leading up to that.
Article 41?
Yes, please. Do you want? We'll get you the last page on a different document. If you put it down there, you'll be cutting off your voice when you go down. That's why you hold it. Yeah. And what I always do, and what I was told when reading, say this is your first page. When you're done, just drop it. It makes a lot of noise, so that was a dumb idea. But okay, a silly idea, not a dumb one.
41.
Not a good idea, maybe.
Article 41. The organs and specialized agencies of the United Nations system and other intergovernmental organizations shall contribute to the full realization of the provisions of this declaration through the mobilization, inter alia, of financial cooperation and technical assistance. Ways and means of ensuring participation of indigenous peoples on issues affecting them shall be established. Article 42. The United Nations, its bodies including the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues and specialized agencies, including at the country level, and states shall promote respect for all and full application of provisions of this declaration and follow up the effectiveness of this declaration. Article 43. The rights recognized herein constitute the minimum standards for the survival, dignity, and well-being of the indigenous peoples of the world. Article 44. All the rights and freedoms recognized herein are equally guaranteed to male and female indigenous individuals. Article 45. Nothing in this declaration may be construed as diminishing or extinguishing the rights of indigenous peoples have now or may acquire in the future. Article 46. Nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, people, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or perform any act contrary to the rights to the Charter of the United Nations, or construed as authorizing or encouraging any action which would dismember or impair totally or in part the territorial integrity of political unity of sovereign and independent states. 2. The exercise of rights enunciated in the present declaration, human rights and fundamental freedoms of all shall be respected. The exercise of the rights set forth in this declaration shall be subject only to such limitations as are determined by law and in accordance with international human rights obligations. Any such limitations shall be non-discriminatory and strictly necessarily for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others and for the unjust and most compelling requirements of decromatic
Is that the right way to say it? Decromatic? Okay.
Oh, yes, yes, sorry.
Okay.
Most compelling requirements of... Say it again.
Yeah, start right from the beginning of that sentence.
and freedoms of other, and for meeting the just and most compelling requirements of a democratic society. 3. The provisions set forth in this declaration shall be...
Maybe start at the beginning of
okay.
the article, just to keep the flow going.
Any such limitations shall be non-discriminatory and strictly...
Sorry,
Oh.
Can you say article, whatever that was,
Oh,
and
okay,
start
okay,
from
all
there, just to keep that flow going, please? Thanks.
Say that, how do you say it again? Democratic. Democratic. Hold
We
on.
don't know that word very well.
No.
Because it is an exercise. Okay, democratic.
Democratic, okay.
And article what?
Article 46. 1. Nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, people, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or to perform any act contrary to the Charter of the United Nations, or construed as authorizing or encouraging any action which would dismember or impair totally or in part the territorial integrity or political unity of sovereign and independent states. 2. In the exercise of the rights enunciated in this present declaration, human rights and fundamental freedoms of all shall be respected. The exercise of the rights set forth in this declaration shall be subject only to such limitations as are determined by law and in accordance with international human rights obligations. Any such limitations shall be non-discriminatory and strictly necessarily solely for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others, and for meeting the just and most compelling requirements of democratic...
It's okay. Start from the sentence.
And for meeting the just and most compelling requirements of a democratic. And for meeting the just and most compelling requirements.
You have to start all over because I overlapped too. Sorry.
And for meeting the just and most compelling requirements of a
democratic.
Yeah. Okay, I got it now. And for meeting the just and most compelling requirements of a democratic society. 3. The provisions set forth in this declaration shall be interpreted in accordance with the principles of justice, democracy, respect for human rights, equality, non-discrimination, good governance, and good faith. Do I have that? Did you want the 3 on the thing done? No?
Oh, those 3?
Yes.
Yeah, I just had a coughing fit there. He's got 3 more sentences. Okay, just wait, give me a...
2. See Resolution 2200A 21 Annex. 3. A/Conference 157/24 Part 1 Chapter 3. 4. Resolution 217A Chapter 3.
Perfect.
Is that good enough?
Beautiful. Wonderful.
I have a hard time.
That's how loud your headphones were, eh?
It doesn't have anything to do with loudness. It's your headphones. When the ear part of the headphones comes close to the microphone, when you're taking them off, it can create feedback.
Okay. That was good. Are you going to be able to hang out for a bit?
I could a little bit.
Oh yeah? Well, I could take you, we could go have lunch at the Baptist or somewhere. Do you want to?
Yeah, I gotta make up. I gotta get my phone back. Phone that one back. Let her know what I'm doing.
Okay, and there's a computer out there too if you need to get on there or something. Okay, and I'll bring in the next people. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. We'll have it finished today. Okay, so 2 women, you 2?
But RJ, I was thinking we could get everyone to say the last sentence that the person before them said, so we can cross-fade the...
Okay, all right.
So we can have you start with the last sentence that Helen...
So did you... Okay, alright, that sounds good.
Yes, and it's up at the end of the page and then yeah, that one.
Do you have an accent?
Do I have an accent?
Yeah.
Do you have a bit of a New Jersey accent?
Can you
Do you want me to emphasize
Yeah,
it?
please.
Okay.
I would love it if you could.
Okay.
No, yours good, but I want to hear the difference in your voices.
Okay.
It's not necessary, but it helps. This is for this.
So I'm starting at Rights and
Yeah, even just the last sentence. I think that would
Yeah.
be,
and then to what, Article 9? Right? 4.5 pages.
And are you going to read?
Yeah.
Okay, so grab
Oh, we have copies.
and let's let her read first. Or should, what do you think? What do you guys think? Sounds like okay.
Okay, I think you're going to start at Article 10. Actually, you're gonna read the last sentence of Article 9 after I read it, I guess.
Okay, cool. So are you guys reading 1 or 2 pages?
We each read 1.5, I think.
Okay. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Keep that because of the mic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're vaguely evil.
All right. Okay. For sure. Recognizing. I'll try and emphasize my accent.
Bring it. Yeah. Bring on your ancestors.
But my ancestors are Scottish.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna put it on. I'm just gonna, I guess, be what it is. For sure. Okay, so I'm starting from the last sentence read. Okay. Recognizing that the situation of Indigenous peoples varies from region to region and from country to country, and that the significance of national and regional particularities and various historical and cultural backgrounds should be taken into consideration. Solemnly proclaims the following United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples as a standard of achievement to be pursued in a spirit of partnership and mutual respect. Article 1. Indigenous peoples have the right to the full enjoyment as a collective or as individuals of all human rights and fundamental freedoms as recognized in the Charter of the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and international human rights law. Article 2. Indigenous peoples and individuals are free and equal to all other peoples and individuals and have the right to be free from any kind of discrimination in the exercise of their rights, in particular that based on their indigenous origin or identity. Article 3. Indigenous peoples have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Article 4. Indigenous peoples, in exercising their right to self-determination, have the right to autonomy or self-government in matters relating to their internal and local affairs.
Sorry.
Should I just start from the beginning of that?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay?
So, I was on Article 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Article 4. Indigenous peoples, in exercising their right to self-determination, have the right to autonomy or self-government in matters relating to their internal and local affairs, as well as ways and means for financing their autonomous functions. Article 5. Indigenous peoples have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinct political, legal, economic, social, and cultural institutions, while retaining their right to participate fully, if they so choose, in the political, economic, social, and cultural life of the state. Article 6. Every Indigenous individual has the right to a nationality. Article 7. 1. Indigenous individuals have the rights to life, physical and mental integrity, liberty, and security of person. 2. Indigenous peoples have the collective right to live in freedom, peace, and security as distinct peoples, and shall not be subjected to any act of genocide or any other act of violence, including forcibly removing children of the group to another group. Article 8. 1. Indigenous peoples and individuals have the right not to be subjected to forced assimilation or destruction of their culture. 2. States shall provide effective mechanisms for prevention of and redress for a. Any action which has the aim or effect of depriving them of their integrity as distinct peoples or of their cultural values or ethnic identities. b. Any action which has the aim or effect of dispossessing them of their lands, territories, or resources. c. Any form of forced population transfer which has the aim or effect of violating and undermining any of their rights. d. Any form of forced assimilation or integration. e. Any form of propaganda designed to promote or incite racial or ethnic discrimination directed against them. Article 9. Indigenous peoples and individuals have the right to belong to an indigenous community or nation, in accordance with the traditions and customs of the community or nation concerned. No discrimination of any kind may arise from the exercise of such a right.
No discrimination of any kind may arise from such a right. Article 10. Indigenous peoples shall not be forcibly removed from their lands or territories. No relocation shall take place without a free, prior, and informed consent of the indigenous peoples concerned, and after agreement on just and fair compensation, and where possible, with the option of return. Article 10. 1. Indigenous peoples have the right to practice and revitalize their cultural traditions and customs. This includes the right to maintain, protect, and develop the past, present, and future manifestations of their cultures, such as archaeological and historical sites, artifacts, designs, ceremonies, technologies, and visual and performing arts and literature. 2. States shall provide redress through effective mechanisms, which may include restitution, development in conjunction with indigenous peoples, with respect to their cultural, intellectual, religious, and spiritual property, without taking their free, prior, and informed consent, or in any States shall provide redress through effective mechanisms, which may include restitution developed in conjunction with indigenous peoples with respect to their cultural, intellectual, religious, and spiritual property, without States shall provide redress through effective mechanisms, which may include restitution developed in conjunction with indigenous peoples with respect to their cultural, intellectual, religious, and spiritual property, taken without their free, prior, and informed consent, or in violation of their laws, traditions, and customs. Article 12. Indigenous peoples have the right to manifest, practice, develop, and teach their spiritual and religious traditions, customs, and ceremonies, the right to maintain, protect, and have access in privacy to their religious and cultural sites, the right to use and control the use and control of their ceremonial objects, and the right to repatriation of their human remains. 2. States shall seek to enable the access and or repatriation of ceremonial objects and human remains in their possession through fair, transparent, and effective mechanisms, developed in conjunction with indigenous peoples concerned. Article 13. 1. Indigenous peoples have the right to revitalize, use, develop, and transmit to future generations their history, languages, oral traditions, philosophies, writing systems, and literatures, and to designate and retain their own names for communities, places, and persons. 2. States shall take effective measures to ensure that this right is protected, and also to ensure that indigenous peoples can understand and be understood in political, legal, and administrative proceedings, where necessary through the provision of interpretation or by other appropriate means. Article 14. 1. Indigenous peoples have the right to establish and control their education systems and their institutions, providing education in their own languages, in a manner appropriate to their cultural methods of teaching and learning. 2. Indigenous individuals, particularly children, have the right to all levels and forms of education of the state without discrimination. 3. State shall, in conjunction with Indigenous peoples, take effective measures in order for Indigenous individuals, particularly children, including those living outside of their communities, to have access, when possible, to an education in their own culture and provided in their own language. Article 15. Article 15. 1. Indigenous peoples have the right to the dignity and diversity of their cultures, traditions, histories, and aspirations, which shall be appropriately reflected in education and public information. 2. States shall take effective measures in consultation and cooperation with the Indigenous peoples concerned to combat prejudice and eliminate discrimination, and to promote tolerance, understanding, and good relations among Indigenous peoples and all other segments of society. Article 16. 1. Indigenous peoples have the right to establish their own media in their own language and to have access to all forms of non-Indigenous media without discrimination.
How does that sound?
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah, you keep it away from it.
I just took it off my head. I did. Okay.
Like there?
Okay. So the next person starts at Article 16.
Yeah.
And reads it again, and then
Yeah,
Okay,
read it
we're
again.
pointed out to these guys.
Okay.
So one of you reads.
Who's
She's going to show you where to start.
You start here,
Article 16?
just at Article 16, and then you keep going
until like Article 23.
until just the end of Article 23.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm actually not here to do a reading. I was listening to music in here before, and I think I left my leather headphone case. Is there a Shure case? Yeah. Thank you.
And then the
somebody
next
put a mic
person
in.
reads Article 23
Yeah, mark it for me.
again, and then Article 24 to...
Start with 16 and with 23, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how much time?